Cinema, the magic vehicle, a comprehensive guide. Journey 1, 1913 to 1950.
So if you are anything like us, you are probably, well, a bit exhausted by the current cinematic landscape.
Oh, definitely.
It just feels like we are constantly wading through sequels, reboots, and endless remakes.
It does. And if you want to find the true, the original cinematic grammar that influenced everything that came after, well, we found a pretty good guide for you.
We really have. We are diving into a comprehensive source today. It's a guide called Cinema, the Magic Vehicle.
Right, and it maps out film history from 1913 all the way to 1981, so a big chunk of history.
A huge chunk. And it's designed not just to summarize, but to give you the real historical context.
Exactly. You get screen credits, detailed descriptions, and that crucial insight into how political, social, and cultural events actually shaped these original works.
So our mission today is to use this guide to take a deep dive into what's considered a foundational masterpiece of the Swedish silent period. Mauritz Stiller's 1919 film, Sir Arne's Treasure, or Herr Arne's Pengar.
It's a fantastic example, a real cinematic gem that honestly deserves far more attention today.
Absolutely.
And it's an excellent place to start because it roots us in a really crucial moment in film history.
You mean the Swedish film industry really establishing itself?
Yes, exactly, on the global stage. And it was largely through its two giants, Victor Sjöström and Mauritz Stiller.
Right, Stiller. His personal background is pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, he was from a Russian Jewish family in Helsinki, Finland.
And he joined the Swedish studio Svenska Bio in 1912. But, the source material points out he wasn't initially seen as the serious director, right?
Not at all. When he arrived, Victor Sjöström was already the established master. He was the one making those grand, serious dramas that really defined Swedish national cinema at the time.
Okay.
Stiller, on the other hand, he focused on what our sources call skillful but light comedies.
So, more entertaining, less weighty.
Pretty much. He was seen as a newcomer, still kind of learning his craft, while Sjöström was at his peak.
So this sounds like it sets up a bit of a classic studio dynamic, maybe even a rivalry.
A little bit, yeah. It sounds like Stiller was essentially challenged.
To prove himself.
Right, to prove he could handle serious material. Sjöström and the studio boss, Charles Magnusson, they challenged him to adapt a powerful legend.
By Selma Lagerlöf, the Nobel Prize winner.
The very one. Her work was already, intrinsically linked to that grand scale of Swedish cinema.
And Stiller stepped up. He delivered.
He absolutely did. Sir Arne's Treasure was the result of that challenge.
And the source material doesn't hold back on its importance, does it?
No, it calls the film one of the two most outstanding achievements of silent Swedish cinema.
Right up there with Sjöström's own The Outlaw and His Wife.
Exactly. It immediately puts Stiller on, pretty much equal footing. It's a testament to rising to the occasion.
Okay, so to understand that achievement, we really need to look at the story itself, the scale of the narrative.
It's big. We're dealing with historical events from the late 16th century.
And it involves Scottish mercenary forces, right?
These forces had been ordered to leave Sweden. They were suspected of plotting against King Johan III.
So they rebelled.
They did. And our story focuses on three commanders, Archie, Philip, and Reginald, who escape imprisonment. They need to flee the country, fast.
Then they're desperate.
Totally desperate, traveling through a really severe winter, heading towards the port of Marstrand.
Which is on an island, isn't it, where the Skagerrak and Kattegat Straits meet?
That's the place. And on their journey, they commit the film's central horror.
The attack on Pastor Arne's house.
Yes, they ransack it, steal his treasure, and kill the entire family.
Brutal. That immediately establishes the stakes, the darkness.
It really does. But there is one sole survivor.
Arne's adopted daughter, Elsalill. She hides.
Right, and she's later taken in by locals near those icy straits. And this is where the plot gets really interesting, because the severity of the winter becomes absolutely critical.
How so?
Well, the sea is frozen solid.
So the fugitives, the murderers, they can't actually escape.
Exactly, they're trapped. Forced to linger right there near the scene of their crime.
Wow, that forced proximity.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant narrative device.
Isn't it? It allows for the emotional core of the film to really develop, or maybe to tragically freeze over.
Because Elsalill meets one of the escapees, Sir Archie.
And she falls deeply in love with him, not knowing who he is, of course.
Which makes what happens next just agonizing.
Completely. She eventually overhears the Scotsman talking about the crime.
And realizes
that the man she loves is the one who murdered her family.
Oh, God. That's an impossible situation. A soul-crushing dilemma.
It is. She's paralyzed. She can't bring herself to denounce the man she loves.
But she can't forgive him either. How could she?
She's stuck between justice and devotion. And, well, in the tragic, unavoidable climax, she's killed.
Just as the royal guards arrive to arrest the culprits.
Just then. It's heartbreaking.
And the ending really emphasizes this sense of fate, something beyond human control. Because even after that initial confrontation, Archie and his men are freed by their own loyalists. Right?
They are. They reach their ship. They seem ready to finally flee to Scotland. But the frozen sea is still there. It's like an immovable object, a tangible manifestation of some greater power.
They literally cannot escape until
they finally surrender, submit to justice. The ultimate resolution isn't really provided by human law enforcement.
It's provided by nature letting go its hold.
Pretty much. They accept what the film frames as the will of God.
Let's unpack that idea, because the interplay between the people and the environment, that seems like one of the biggest takeaways here.
Oh, absolutely.
The source material stresses that these powerful, omnipresent forces of nature aren't just a backdrop. They're called witnesses and co-participants.
Right. Think of it like this. Nature is almost the arbiter of justice in the film.
The ultimate judge.
In a way, the frozen sea acts as the ultimate tempering force. It symbolizes nature's domination over human affairs. It physically traps the fugitives until they accept their fate.
That's such a powerful visual metaphor. And it's a perfect thematic mirror, too, isn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, the extreme winter is what initially drives the Scotsmen, desperate and hungry, to commit the crime in the first place.
Right, it pushes them toward violence.
But then that same extreme winter holds them accountable. It ensures they can't flee until the moral resolution happens.
That's a great point. And visually, Stiller uses this severe environment just masterfully. You have the threatening locations early on that kind of precipitate the crime, but then contrast that with the snowy landscapes in the central part of the story. Those pristine white scenes, they really stress the purity and the tragic innocence of Elsalill's feelings for Archie.
Creating this almost unreal, otherworldly mood.
Exactly, against the backdrop of this incredibly harsh reality.
The power of those visuals, it's undeniable, even watching clips today. And we have to acknowledge the collaboration here.
Definitely. The literary author, Stiller directing, and especially the cinematographer, Julius Jaenzon.
Jaenzon. The source credits his work on those natural locations as, like, the primary source of the visual appeal.
Oh, absolutely. Jaenzon's work is foundational to that whole Swedish school of filmmaking. He achieved these really striking visual effects for the time.
Like what specifically?
Well, using sharp contrasts of black and white on location, really leaning into that severe winter light.
Okay.
And then in the interiors, he uses heavy chiaroscuro.
That intense contrast between light and deep shadow, which seems perfect for a story about betrayal and murder.
It really is. Using chiaroscuro in those dusky, intimate interiors must have just perfectly communicated the moral ambiguity, the tragedy of Elsalill's realization.
Keeping the focus intensely on the character's internal struggle.
It absolutely reinforces the mood. And the source mentions meticulous frame composition, too, and careful camera movement. It all contributes to this feeling of, like, oppressive fate.
Moving deliberately, matching the slow, tragic unfolding of the story.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like an absolute masterwork. Powerful story, incredible visuals, deep thematic resonance.
Yeah.
But our source material suggests that critics at the time weren't universally singing its praises.
Right, that's the interesting part. There were reservations, nuanced critiques.
What were they?
Well, while Stiller was praised for his dramatic structure, the imaginative setting, and his editing, which apparently did successfully convey the character's internal thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
The film itself was frequently described as cool and somewhat heavy.
Cool and somewhat heavy. Interesting.
Yeah, critics thought it was too ponderous and sometimes lacked rhythm.
Ponderous suggests a lack of maybe kinetic energy.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a specific critique that Stiller himself was unable to become directly engaged with the characters?
Yes, that specific critique comes up, which creates a real paradox, doesn't it?
How can a film be so meticulously crafted, so emotionally resonant through its visuals?
Yet the director is seen as emotionally distant. Yeah. It perhaps speaks to Stiller's more methodical style compared to the maybe raw passion Sjostrom often brought.
Like he prioritized structure over visceral connection.
That seems to be the criticism, yeah.
So was there any point where Stiller kind of broke through that structural shell and delivered just pure cinematic tension?
There was one clear exception that apparently all critics noted.
Which was?
The sequence where Pastor Arne's house is burned down.
Ah, the initial attack.
Right. That particular scene was universally highlighted as being full of tension and movement. It was like a flash of raw, kinetic action.
Showing he could do it.
Exactly. It demonstrated his capacity for dynamism, even if the overall film maybe maintained that colder, more meditative pace.
It's those specific details that really help us understand the film's legacy. Because regardless of those initial criticisms about pacing or coolness, there is one unforgettable visual that seems to have transcended the film itself.
Absolutely. It became part of cinematic history.
You're talking about the final scene.
The final scene. It's truly iconic in silent cinema, that long procession of women following Elsalill's body.
Which is borne by 6 young men dressed in white.
Yes. It's just this incredibly stark, beautiful, and sorrowful image. It perfectly summarizes the film's atmosphere like a visual hymn to sorrow and inevitable fate.
And the power of that image is undeniable because it didn't just stand alone, right?
Yeah.
It actually became like a quote in film history.
That's right. Our sources point out that this specific visual composition, this tragic procession, it directly inspired, or maybe was even quoted by, the legendary director Sergei Eisenstein.
Eisenstein, wow.
Yeah, in Ivan the Terrible, no less.
That's incredible. That's the mark of a truly foundational work, isn't it?
Totally. To have your visual composition quoted in a film as monumental as Ivan the Terrible, it just proves that Stiller, even if some critics called him cool, established a piece of fundamental cinematic language.
Something that influenced giants across the globe.
Absolutely.
It really demonstrates that the experience of diving into these early films is so much more than just a history lesson. It's like a time travel experience. Mm-hmm. It shows you the exact source codes for the visual language we still use today. Mm-hmm. You can trace that line of influence directly from, the frozen Swedish coast in 1919 all the way to modern filmmaking.
And that's the true value, I think, of understanding film history. It helps you see that every groundbreaking director is in some way standing on the shoulders of these early achievements.
Yeah. It encourages you to seek out the originals, like Sir Arne's Treasure, and see how they shaped the entire medium.
Definitely worth doing.
So to leave you, our listener, with a question that kind of builds on these profound themes from Stiller's masterpiece. If, back in 1919, nature, that unforgiving ice, was the ultimate force dictating when justice could finally be served, what powerful, seemingly immovable modern force today acts as that tempering force?
Ooh, interesting question.
What determines the timing of ultimate resolution or fate in our lives now?
Is it something like the endless digital archives that preserve every action, this sort of permanent record?
Maybe. Or is it the slow, often deliberate pace of a legal system?
Or maybe it's something structural, something we can barely see, kind of like the ice just sitting there on the horizon.
Yeah. What is that modern arbiter of time and fate?
Something to think about, that modern equivalent of the ice.
Definitely something to mull over until the next time we deep dive into the sources.